After several years in production, the failures of 2042, and supposed feedback from Battlefield Labs, it appears the devs still can't execute a AAA live service without at least a little bit of drama. As after all this time, all these sales, and all the community support, Battlefield 6 has just delayed its live service amid a dwindling player base, making what should have been a 90-day season now look to stretch over 120 days in total. And this isn't a rumor. According to Battlefield themselves and outlets like GameSpot, EA and the devs have now confirmed that Season 2 won't launch until February 17th, instead of the late July window many players were expecting. The official reasoning, again reported by GameSpot, is that the studio needs extra time to further develop and refine the season, supposedly based on player feedback. And trust me, as someone who works as an art director, often with 3D artists and corporate oversight, I understand the pressures these kinds of projects face and the internal chaos caused by corporations like EA. But at this point, Battlefield 6 is being built on a lie, and is slipping back into this limbo with fans as communication becomes fuzzy and the player base collapses. Between the broken balance, the lacking content, and inconsistent core mechanics like netcode, the game isn't nearly as polished or built by community feedback as we were told, as DICE has pledged to implement feedback, but ignored requests for a server browser, RSP, and locked weapons. In fact, while the game excels in new territory like weapon customization and gunplay mechanics, it continues the franchise's reputation of ignoring severe legacy issues. Issues we were all hopeful had been addressed after EA folded 4 world-class studios into one project and spent several years rebuilding after the failures of 2042. However, while the Season 2 teaser confirms many of the leaks, like the game's new focus on some sort of toxic gas mechanic, and promises a larger 2026 roadmap, the announcement completely dodges the community's concerns about development mishaps and delays. Outlets like Gaming Bolt pointed out that the announcement boils down to Season 1 is extended, and more info is coming later, without addressing why things are slipping this early on. And when that delay went public, the reaction was immediate, with articles highlighting some of the first community responses, with players outright asking, is this a joke? And honestly, it's hard to blame them when you're staring down a nearly 4-month season with no real content offerings in the latter half. Now, perhaps Battlefield Studios has really heard our feedback and is honestly trying to get this one right. Perhaps they're buying some extra time to help rework a ton of horrible cosmetics they need for the Battle Pass. Or perhaps they're close to solving netcode and desync and just need an extra week or two to compile the new build of the game. Well, maybe. But even that optimism is split, as outlets like GamesBeast reported that community reactions are deeply divided. Some players saying they'd rather wait for quality than get another rushed season, while others feel burned yet again by vague messaging and delays so early into the live service. With how silent the communication has gone, with how much backlash the game has started to get, and how big a failure I believe RedSec has turned out to be, maybe there are some bigger issues behind the scenes. Maybe from an organizational standpoint, Season 1 was a test bed for the new studio structure, and they ultimately decided things needed to be changed, especially with the passing of Vince Zampella. Or maybe for once, DICE actually knows they need to get this one right, and they're on track to solve all of our problems. Either way, at this point, since 2018 and the release of Battlefield 5, has there really been any evidence that DICE can execute on a true AAA live service? Not really. And the saddest part for me personally is that before Battlefield 6 even came out, I said I wanted to go into this game optimistic but fair, as this was the biggest test the franchise has ever seen, with more riding on it than ever before. I made the case for why a Battlefield Battle Royale could be epic, I gave the multiplayer an 8 out of 10, and I mentioned how great the cosmetics were within the Road to Battlefield Battle Pass. However, at this point, there's not much for longtime fans to hold on to. While Season 2 certainly seems to be building towards something interesting and the game's full of potential, we're seeing the same story play out once again. a title with massive potential squandered right out of the gate by a publisher and studios that clearly have issues, whether they're organizational or technical. And after 4 years in development, we're already in a content drought less than 90 days in. After all this hype, player numbers have tanked, and their free-to-play initiative has quickly fallen from the gaming zeitgeist. And after all this creator support, the game has flatlined on Google Trends, falling below COD, Arc Raiders, and EA's free-to-play golden child, the 6-year-old Apex Legends. Now, of course, as hardcore as I am, I'll still be here, and to some extent, I'm still excited for Season 2. The green gas, I'm going to assume, is some sort of environmental change to RedSec, perhaps a new POI that's leaking gas and changing how the game flows, or perhaps it's something simple like a new gas grenade gadget. Either way, Battlefield 6 has proven it can absolutely be the best casual FPS on the market when the devs have their ducks in a row. But delaying your big flagship AAA live service just weeks after takeoff and filling a month-long gap with stopgap Battle Pass extensions isn't the mark of a healthy live service, especially when 76% of their publisher's revenue is riding on it. But guys, drop those comments below and let me know how you're feeling about the delay. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.